protection. Let your spirit shout. Unlock your power. Face what you've been through. Heal that trauma. Make yourself anew. Stronger from within. Oh, yes,
Ooh, Jesus. I came on, y'all.
your heart and set your
Just
spirit
threw you on
free.
stage, huh?
Blessings we can quantify.
No.
Welcome, 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 welcome.
Hey,
Welcome,
hey,
everyone.
we are excited to be here. A little tired, but we are in the house, in the building. Wah, 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 wah.
That is right.
Let's go.
Yes. How's everyone feeling tonight?
It's I only have two ways of being fabulous or fantastic. So
I love
I'm
that.
fabulous tonight.
Awesome.
I like that. How about you, Joe? I'll take fantastic since you didn't take it. I'm fantastic. Nice to meet you, fabulous.
Yes.
I'm
How
doing
about you,
awesome.
Joe?
I'm doing awesome after my trip. I'm back. I'm just
That's
trying to get back into the mode and the swing of things.
okay. Can we talk about how jealous of you that we are? Well, I don't know. I'm not gonna put nobody's business in the street, but it looked like I'm gonna be the only one that hasn't traveled yet this year. So I need to get my butt in gear because Joe DeRoe is coming back off a hiatus, and
I sure am.
I think Antoine got jets under his boots, so look like he'll be taking off in a minute.
I did go get a chance to go to Denver for a week. So,
Okay, so both of y'all went to Colorado.
That's that's where I was too.
oh, for real?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's literally one of my favorite places in the world. I love Colorado. I just can't adjust to the winters. So for me to live in Colorado, I'm gonna have to come all the way up because I'd have to do summers in Colorado and then the winter months somewhere else fabulous and warm. Cause no.
Understand that. But
Absolutely.
I will say that it was a great vacation trip, but also it was great for my mental health, and it's kind of like I took it as a almost like a mental health therapy type of trip, just reconnecting with myself because I'd never been there, and being in the mountains and
Mm.
trying the hot springs and all that, and just detoxing, and it was a great trip for multiple reasons, not just leisure. So I came back with a lot of clarity and a newfound vision of where I need to go.
All
Understood.
right. I love
Understood.
that. I love that.
Well, I hate to be the odd man out, but I'm gonna state the obvious. I'm not on camera today. I am just not in a camera day mood. We just gonna be totally straight up and honest. So you all will have to ogle at the gentleman today. All right. So today, as you can tell by our ticker, we're going to be talking about trauma from unexpected experiences in unexpected places, right? A lot of us wonder oftentimes what we're dealing with, right? We walk away from situations that are everyday or what we would consider everyday situations. But not all trauma comes from like war zones or violent crimes. Sometimes it's something as simple as a partner with unpredictable rage or a car accident that seems minor, but it kind of shook your world. Or sometimes it's a roommate who just flies off the handle to the 25th power. And so in this episode, we unpack a very unique and very personal story. Our own beloved Just Antoine went through a situation that really kind of had him a little shook. Like, initially my understanding was is that, I'm dealing with somebody that, there's two cans short of a six pack. But when he stepped away and reflected on the experience, it really had a lasting effect. And there was some issues that kind of quietly left him feeling like, do I have PTSD? I know I've been traumatized by this situation. So tonight we're going to explore what PTSD really looks like beyond the stereotypes. We're going to talk about the signs that you may be living with unrecognized trauma. We're also going to talk about how common experiences like toxic relationships, sudden outbursts, or emotionally unsafe living environments can have a lasting psychological effect and leave scars, and the steps you can take to identify, process, and start healing. So if you've ever asked yourself, was what I went through really that bad? This episode is for you. So Antoine, I'm gonna pass the mic and let you just kind of give us a little background of what happened. What happened? And I'm gonna mute so that we get all the juice, all the tea.
Well, I first want to say that I love this podcast. I love the opportunity to talk to our audience with Joe and Jay. Um, you all are a blessing to me, and this opportunity, I don't take it lightly. And so I want to give kudos to my co host and appreciation. I found myself in a situation where I needed a place to stay, and I found a nice place with a room with a restroom in it and very comfortable bed, and it was just nice. Um, there was a couple of people already living there, had their own rooms and everything like that, and so it appeared to be a nice spot. And then all of a sudden, things changed and shifted in a matter of uh, 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 probably a month. I would say about a month. Everything was okay until a month hit, and then it just went haywire. Um, One of the things that I asked myself was, what could I have done different to change the situation? And one of the things that I said to myself is, I should have nipped certain things in the bud before it escalated. I don't know if that would have took things to a higher level at the beginning or sooner, or just what, I'm not sure. Okay. When you're dealing with people that have mental health issues and that are on drugs, it's a different animal, and you really never know what to expect. I come from a training background where I train security officers and police officers, and I train them on how to de escalate situations and how to defend themselves. Okay, how to shoot, how to use various weapons, how to remove weapons from other people, and things of that nature. And so I almost found myself in a situation where I thought I might have to do these things, all the above, right?
Oh
Uh,
wow.
but so so I just wanted to give a little preference on how the scene was set up. This young lady, she I never had relationships with her or anything. I had just met her like a month ago. When she didn't like things, she would start yelling from her room what she didn't like about what was going on in the house. And so instead of addressing her and saying, hey, if you have something that you want to say to me, go ahead and say it. Um, because I know we are living here together, and so I want to be respectful to you. And so I could have started off that conversation with that, but a lot of times we ignore things, and when we ignore things or we avoid things, which that was more of my case, um, it tends to get worse, right? And so that could have been a part that I played in the situation being where it was. Had I said something prior, it might not have gotten there. I can't tell for sure, but I'm aware of how avoidance and prolonging, um, when you need to have a crucial conversation, can make matters worse. I'm fully aware of that.
Can I ask you, do
Sure.
you feel like you put it off because you didn't want to have the conversation, or do you feel like you put it off because maybe it's an instance, maybe it wasn't that serious and you thought maybe it would just kind of blow over and it was just kind of one of those things where she's having a bad day, so she's, or having, she has, this demeanor and it just wasn't that serious? Or do you think it was like a combination of both things?
I think that I like to keep peace, right? And I like to be liked. And that's part of the things that I need to overcome to better my life overall. And so, had I done what I just said, then it definitely could have escalated something sooner, or it would have nipped it all in the bud. And we could have, I mean, she probably would have still been crazy, but and I hope I I didn't mean to offend nobody by that, but
But I
she
think
might have.
maybe you can elaborate on some of the behaviors that led you to label it that, because from what I heard, I was, look, pseudo traumatized by hearing the experience, and I couldn't imagine having to lay my head and then hope to wake up after having endured that, and I'm paying my money there for somebody to, you
Yeah,
know, yeah.
yes, yeah. So, so it the so the episode, the first episode was, I had a visitor with me, and my visitor was cooking in the kitchen, and the young lady that stayed with, that had a room that we were sharing a co-space with, got offended and thought that I should have warned her that I was having company. And so when she started talking about the situation just loud and on the phone with someone else, as she did on a regular basis, um, and so when I brought that to her attention, she felt that I was in her face and I wanted to, and I just said, "Why you tripping?" That's all I said. And she started saying, "You need to get the F out of my face. MF, you don't know who you messing with. I'll kill you." And then it just started a whole array of stuff that she said to me, and how she was going to give someone some cocaine, and they were going to snort it, a 8 ball, and spray the place up, right?
Oh,
Um, and she said that she had an assault rifle in her room and she was going to use it if
yeesh.
necessary.
Holy cow.
Um, and so this is at a high level of uh, yelling. So she's talking at 10. If the
Oh,
highest volume is 10, she's
right.
there. At this point, I'm in my room and with the door locked, and just kind of like, wow, is this
Right.
really happening?
And you
But
have company at this point, right? You
I
have
have company,
someone.
yes. And so the person that's with me is traumatized as well, because the
Right.
threats are coming towards both of us.
Right. And just to clarify, this was not this young lady's house and you were not renting from her. You were renting from someone else, as was she. So the kitchen was considered common area, correct? That
Correct.
Okay, just want to set the stage so that people understand how much you and your friend had the right to be in that space cooking as anybody else that was paying to stay there.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
Just checking. So
And
she felt like you for some reason needed to get her okay before having a friend cook in the common area kitchen.
yes, and when my friend was approached, my friend informed her that she was with me, and that didn't matter. It it she chose to just continue to rant and rave. Well, she started the rant and raving after that point, right? Um, and so it just it just was bad, and it was bad for a long time. I mean, I'm talking about an
Woo! That's a
hour
lot of
and a
yelling.
half,
That's
and
a
at
lot.
10, just like just constant, a constant, right? And so not a let up. There was a small let up when the landlord was called, and I told the landlord about what was going on, and so the landlord called the person, and for about 5 minutes while they talked, it was quiet, and then prior 5 minutes after that, it was quiet, and then it went right back up. It shot right back up to 10, and so
So
at
after she spoke to the landlord, she jumped back on the soapbox.
right. So after about 5 minutes or so of calming, no loud noise, no yelling, cursing, screaming, threatening, then I text my landlord and said, "Hey, if she continues, I'm gonna have to call the police because if something happens, I need to have it documented that this is what's going on." And so I called the police. The police came out, and when the police came out, at this point, she's in a towel. I don't know what she has, if she has anything under the towel or not, but she's in a bath towel, and she's opening the door because she sees the police approaching the house.
Uh,
And the police said that they were coming there, and she's like, "You must have the wrong place." And so I stepped out then, and I said, "Yes, I called." And then she started threatening the police, and
that's
called,
amazing.
yes, calling one police officer a gorilla, and
Wow.
telling the other police officer that he was attractive, and she wanted to do explicit uh, things to him.
Wow. So there
And
was
so,
clearly a disconnect with, if nothing else, appropriate behavior.
yeah, it was wow. It was wow, 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 wow. Everything was wow, 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 wow. And so I didn't know why. I didn't know what was going on. I knew that she drank alcohol, and I knew that she smoked marijuana, but I didn't know what else was going on. And
Right. Well, she
so,
seemed to have an 8 ball on hand. So,
well, that was later. I didn't. Oh yeah, she did talk about that. She did talk
yeah.
about that in that episode. She did
Right.
mention that, but she was giving it to somebody else. She wasn't partaking in it.
Well, where
Um,
you get it from? If you, I don't know nobody that got it on hand that don't take it unless they steal it. I'm just putting that out there.
right, right, right.
Right.
Um, and so you know, the police were going to perhaps take her to jail, but she locked herself in the room and continued to do explicit gestures and all kinds of things. And they tried to talk to her, and but she would refuse to come out. So they ended up giving me a police report number and leaving. And so I I I decided to leave the premise because she was threatening to bring people over to do harm to me and my friend as well.
Can
And
we talk
so,
about, can we stop right here
sure,
for just a
sure.
second and talk about the feeling? And I don't want to put words in your mouth. I would love for you to expound on the feeling you had when the officer showed up to this erratic behavior, this disgusting rhetoric that she was spewing, the things she was saying to them, the things she was saying to you, the threats that she was making to them and you, and then just decided, I'm gonna go in my room and I'm gonna close the door and I'm not coming out. And the police said, well, here, let me give you a number that we have this on file. And we all know that if that situation had been in reverse, it would not have gone that way. They would not have allowed you to lock yourself in the room and decide you weren't coming out. It would have turned into a whole different thing. Can we talk about if you had any feelings, or if in that moment you had any feelings, or subsequently about that particular part of what you experienced?
Well,
And I also have a question for you too after that as well.
okay. I I was like, wow, and I really didn't know what the laws were because I'm new to the state, and I knew it was a stand your ground state. I was told that, but I didn't know to what extent I could stand my ground. If my life was in imminent danger, could I, I knew the Texas laws and I know Illinois laws, um, but I don't know Georgia's quite, right? I'm not as familiar with it. And so I thought that left me in a peculiar place, right? Now I have to still contend with this behavior. And so I leave, and I felt like I wasn't really helped. This
To say,
and the situation potentially got worse, right?
right, to say
Because
the
now,
least.
right, because now this person is feels that I'm a snitch,
Hmm.
and
Wow.
how dare I call the police, right?
Right.
Right.
And so yes, brother Joe.
So, yeah, because my mic was cutting off a little bit, so I didn't catch everything. But from what I did catch was when her behavior is being very erratic, and you did call the police. Did she? I want to say, did she get a gut feeling, or possibly overheard that you were going to call police? And maybe, and my mind's going to like, well, did she do a quick change? You know what I'm saying? To put the bat robe on just because she knew they were coming or something.
No, I don't think so, because she was saying that the initial words to the police officers were, "You must have the wrong house."
Okay.
And so this was just, yeah, she was just being her at the time. So she didn't, yeah, that wasn't, I don't think she had any clue that that was happening. So afterwards, I end up leaving the premise, and um, she was threatening to bring others over to the house, like I said
Hmm.
earlier. And so the next day I drove by, and there was somebody in the house or at the house, and they were sitting on the balcony. And I wanted to go up to the I wanted to go in the house and retrieve a couple of things, but I said, I don't know what she has told this gentleman. And if this gentleman is just going to be at the jump wanting to fight me, right? I have my
Or worse,
weapon,
right? Because
or try to shoot me or kill me or
right,
what.
because she made mention that, I'm gonna have people come and do thus and so. So, you
Right.
know, it could have escalated beyond that. And I'm glad you made the decision to not engage. Some men be like, nah, if that's my stuff, I'm going in. But I'm glad you said, you know what, I'll get my stuff another time and it's not worth it. But even that does something emotionally, to have to deter, you know.
Yes, and then you know, because it's like you testing my manhood,
Hmm.
right? And
Number one.
I feel that I know I can handle the situation. I do carry, and um so I can, you know, I train people how to use their firearms, so I can use mine pretty well.
Right.
And so I wasn't worried about that part. But what I was seeing, it was really unbelievable, and I'm like, I wasn't ready for it. It was unexpected, as the title says,
Yeah.
and I was traumatized. I was traumatized, and so I didn't go back. I seen the guy, so I passed by, and so I didn't go to the house to a couple of days later. Um, and so I was I was coming back from church, and I felt God talk to me saying, agree with your adversaries quickly, right? That's a scripture in the Bible.
It is, and it's one of my favorites.
And
That's the premise for fight fire with water and not fire with fire.
yes.
Hmm.
That's the
And
foundation.
and so I text her and I said, "Hey, I apologize for not letting you know I had company. I said I hope we can move forward past this forward. I hope we can move forward." That's all I wrote. And so that was it. Came back to the place in a few days. So she was just like not talking to me, not really looking at me, this, that,
Hmm.
and the other, which was fine with me. Okay. And so uh, a few days went by. I think we're maybe in the next week, the beginning of the next week. And there's pollen, one of the worst seasons of pollen in Georgia. And so pollen is everywhere. And so we have wooden floors
That's traumatizing.
and right,
It is.
and pollen was on the floors. And so she came in this day and pollen is on the floor, and she felt that we should have swept up the pollen, and we were trifling, and we were everything but a child of God. And she decides to go to another level and take things to another level with me. And she starts telling me that I'm going to die tonight. You're going to die tonight. And she's at a 10 again. You're dying tonight. I'm going to come in. I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to empty one clip, and I'm going to put in another clip and empty that one. She says that I performed oral sex with somebody and I spit in your coffee maker. This is what she said to me.
Oh my gosh. So
And
she's
Wow.
basically saying that she has done this without you knowing. This is her part of her retaliation for her disdain and anger towards you, is that she spit somebody else's bodily fluids into your.
coffee maker, yes.
Oh,
Wow.
And she
oh,
said, you bet not eat any food in there because I'm gonna poison it all. So all the food that you
Goodness.
purchase, I'm poisoning it. So you better not eat any of it. She goes on and she's at a 10 again, and I have probably um an hour plus of recordings of her saying all this stuff. She also says that she's on Percocets and she's taken three, and she's going to take another one to in hopes to calm down because she don't want to kill me. Well, she may have to just go ahead and take me out. She has called her brothers from the state that she's from, and they're going to come and they're going to take care of me. and in the form of shooting. And so she said, matter of fact, I had somebody drop me off today, and they wanted to come in and and fight, but she told them not to. Um, and so these are the things that she's saying to me, and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. So it's
Yeah.
nighttime. I'm laying in the bed, can't sleep because she's ranting and raving at 10, like right outside my door. And I have my gun in the car, so it's not with me. So she's
Hmm.
saying I'm gonna die tonight, and she talks about she knows that I go to church. She knows that I'm a minister, and I told her a little bit about me, just being cordial. And so she's saying all these bad things about
Mhm.
God, and he
Anything she
can't
feels
save.
like can trigger you.
Yeah, he can't save you. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, so it was very traumatic, to say the least. And so I I just told myself, I said, I'm gonna rest in you, Lord, tonight. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna go out to my car because I may have an interaction with her, and I don't know how I could, how that would end up.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. So I just decided. She said she had access to my room, um, and she was going to come in, and like I said earlier, she was going to shoot me. Um,
Wow. And so part of the biggest thing, right? So I can kind of relate to how situations like that leave your nervous system all the way out of whack, right? Anytime
Hmm.
threats are that graphic and specific, anytime the location is intimate and in the moment, inescapable, anytime there's substance use and unpredictable behavior and possibly psychosis present, all escalate the threat level. And the emotional toll is real, and your body definitely stores that terror. And I want you, if you can, to talk a little bit about the emotional and mental experience of of reflecting on that situation. You're out of
mhm.
that situation now physically, right? You've removed
Correct.
yourself,
Correct.
That's
but
correct.
can you speak to, because we definitely want to touch on, your PTSD and how, and again, we're not doctors, right? So I'm not diagnosing you with PTSD, but we want to talk about how to determine if you might be experiencing PTSD, what some of the things that can happen that can cause it, and it doesn't, because when we hear PTSD we think veteran, we think war, someone that survived war,
Yes.
but it definitely shows up in situations that are not that far from home, if you will. So I want to talk or hear a little bit about your emotional journey, your mental journey, your
Yes.
physical journey after having
Yep.
gone through that.
So I practice on when I'm talking about the situation, because I share it from time to time, that I'm not emotionally tied to it. Right. I'm careful not to be back there emotionally. And when I feel that I am going back there, I let it go. So I practice letting stuff go that has affected me. Um, I've always been a respectful person, and I've always been, to a fault, a considerate person, right? And so it's just hiding that. Like with my new roommates, I still have roommates. I'm very considerate of them, even more so from the trauma that I've experienced. Like, okay, am I too loud? Is this going to trigger something in somebody else, and they're going to, start going off on me because
Right.
I'm too loud. And
Right. So
so
you're hyper vigilant now. You're always
yes, I have
listening
to.
for.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that what I'm hearing you say basically is that you're hyper vigilant now. Even though you're practicing letting it go, you don't want to be in that space, but it clearly has left some remnants. The fact that you're hyper vigilant alone is like you're questioning your ability to take up space in the place that you live
Right.
because there are other people there. So
Right. And so I have to talk myself through that. Right. And
right,
I have to let that go as well. And so um, having a space to talk about what's going on with you to another person always helps,
Okay.
especially if the person can truly listen, right?
right, yeah,
And really just you listening to yourself explaining it can solve a lot of stuff, right? And
Hmm.
let you know that, hey, I still got some stuff going on. But just being super aware of who I am and what's going on with me is something I practice every day to understand my thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And not saying that it's a bad feeling, but I have to process it and saying, what story am I telling myself? Is this
Hmm.
story true? Is that all
mhm,
the facts? Is this coming from somewhere else, from the
right,
traumatic situation that I had with this other roommate, and being able to let that go and say, you know what, that's not a problem. If it's a problem, they will address it for themselves, and I can't play another story because of my past.
gotcha.
Okay.
So
So.
even after leaving the situation, like PTSD symptoms can follow you. So I want you to, I'm going to just give you a short list, and I want the listeners and viewers to just kind of think about it, especially if you feel like, have I suffered from PTSD? Am I suffering from PTSD? And I'm going to give you a couple of symptoms, and I want you to just take a mental note, Antoine, if you experienced any of these, still experience any of these after having been in that situation. Because what happens so many times is that people don't know that they have PTSD or PTSD type symptoms, because we sometimes will minimize, we'll say, it wasn't like I got shot, or she didn't actually hurt me, she didn't actually do the things, or we do a comparison, right? We sometimes say, well, other people have gotten into this situation and they roommates have actually killed them, or their partner has actually killed them. Or we mislabel, we'll say things like it's just anxiety or depression or stress that is everyday life, right? Especially Black folk, we deal with a lot of things just in how we exist in many spaces. So we kind of chalk it up to, it is what it is. Um, or we go into survival mode. We're so focused on getting out alive, or in some instances, our emotions are numb that, they're not even showing up. So I want to just I just kind of want to point out some of the things that, or some of the remnants of having gone through a traumatic situation that are PTSD symptoms. And this is for anybody that doesn't have the support system that we have, and the ability to kind of, you know, not heal each other, but support one another in our healing.
Hmm.
We have and have decided we're going to incorporate an emotional wellness day for the team, where we are talking about the things and helping to heal one another. But for those that are listening that may be experiencing, I just want to know, have you experienced any of the following symptoms after having been in that situation and you're now removed from it? We already established hypervigilance, like always scanning for the potential of something happening. So we've already established that you have bouts of that, and that is something that you have to mitigate, right? What about sleep issues? Did you have any sleep issues following that? And when I say sleep issues, not necessarily that somebody's going to come in the room and do all of those things, wants you out of that situation, but even laying in the bed at night thinking about that exchange and that situation.
No, I mean, from time to time, I do think about it. I haven't really had um, any after effects from it to a extent like, like waking up in a cold sweat or anything like that, um, or any fear overtaking me from a situation, even in the home, because I stayed there for probably another week afterwards. Her brother did come into town, which he said he was coming in. So the second episode may have happened on a Tuesday. She said her brother was coming
Mhm.
on a Friday, and so I was still there on the Friday. And one of the things she said while talking to her brother is that he did apologize, and so I'm gonna let him live.
Hmm. That's
And
still a threat.
it's still a threat.
Yeah, that's still a
And
threat.
but her brother was like, "I'll still come over and take care of this Negro." Um, but she kind of smoothed that situation over, and so. But to answer your question, I don't think so. I don't recall any times that I had any sleep deprivation or anything like that. Um, I was able to rest that night when she was threatening me. Um, of course, I avoided being in the house as much as possible while I lived there. It was just like, hey, when I go, I need to go slot tired and just go lay it down. You know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to
Right.
interact, or I ain't trying to be in the open space, share space or anything. Just to have very minimum contact with this person.
So that's funny that you say that because that's number 4. So we covered hypervigilance, sleep
Hmm.
issues, avoidance is another uh, trauma response, right? I'm going to
Right.
avoid putting myself in a situation where I have to encounter this person or anything similar happening. So it's causing you to curb your quote unquote natural behavior in your living space. So we so far we got yes on hypervigilance, no on sleep issues, yes on avoidance. What about triggers? If you heard somebody yelling or screaming, or do you think your body would respond to that?
It probably would. Um, it probably would. Like if I had I like somebody was loud last night, and I didn't feel any trauma behind it or anything, but I was, I'm I have a security presence already, or I'm very aware of my surroundings, just by the nature of business that I was in. Um, so that's a norm for me.
Okay.
Um, However, if someone was started screaming in the house, that it probably would trigger something.
Hmm.
I'm practicing letting go. I may not have let go everything.
Well, it's a
Um, I
process,
feel
right?
right. It is a process, and I feel that I'm okay. Right.
Right.
But I'm still watchful of my behavior. I'm still watchful of my thoughts, feelings, and emotions. I still I still monitor how I feel, even talking about it, right?
Right.
And so all of these things is very important for people to realize that it's okay to, realize that, hey, this is affecting my sleep. This is affecting how I'm moving around. This is affecting how I'm operating in my new space, right? Uh,
Right.
and and having that conversation with somebody, and going through that process of saying, okay, am I just telling myself a story? Is this a normal? Is it abnormal? You know, can I move on from this? Can I let that go? What is that process? Why am I feeling this way? All
Hmm.
those type of questions are very vital for healing, right?
Right,
And
Hmm.
and awareness, right? To
right,
move
Right.
towards healing. And
right.
so I have to ask myself those questions. I have to be very in tune of what's going on with me, and I really don't. I try not to judge myself, right? Because
Yeah.
Hmm.
when a person insults your manhood as a male,
Oh,
you
because
know,
I was about to say I don't have no manhood. I don't know nothing about it.
as a male, or uh, if you're feminine, feminist or
Femininity. Yeah.
femininity, yes,
Yeah.
thank you. If someone had, you know, did that to you, how would that make you feel?
Yeah.
And how can you bounce back for that? Um, and so, I have to deal with that and rationalize what did I do and why did I do it?
And,
And
Hmm.
go ahead.
I want to point out that that is another trigger or response, uh, PTSD symptom or response is confusion or guilt. Asking yourself, you know, um, is this a story I'm telling myself? Or, even in some instances, some people say, well, did I overreact? And sometimes they begin to blame themselves. So there's a number of different responses that your mind and your body can have.
Hmm.
Even telling the story, you know, if you were to examine your body, do you feel any tension in your body anywhere, like in your shoulders or in your chest? You may not, but what people have come to understand is that when you've gone through something like that, like, so out of the list of, let's see, 6 common symptoms or triggers that I have asked you about, I'd say that you have indicated that you've experienced at least 4 of the 6, and that's
Okay.
high. And you may not even experience the other 2 until some time later. It may be a completely different event that causes the feelings to come out, and you're like, why am I feeling like this, or why am I responding in a way that doesn't seem to match what's happening, and it really is residual. So
Yes.
I appreciate you being transparent, and I'm so sorry that that happened to you. And I'm
Okay.
going to turn the floor over to Joe, because I do know that he had questions. And what I would like to move into next is what we can do if we suspect that we're living with PTSD. We want to be able to give those listening and you,
Yes.
some actionable steps to take.
And I
Oh
wanted
yeah.
to add before we shift to Joe, I wanted to add that it's all right to ask yourself questions, right? Because
Hmm.
you got to figure things out, and you got to know what's going on with you and why you going on, why things are going on. And
Mhm.
so it's not a negative thing, it's a normal thing. And so I think people may hear certain things and feel that because I'm going through this or I'm experiencing this, something's wrong with me. No, something is not wrong with you. It's a natural occurrence, right? When you go through a traumatic situation, you're gonna ask yourself questions. You're gonna feel certain ways. You need to depress those things. You gotta lean into them, understand what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and then you have to be able to let it go. It's like, okay, I can see why I felt that way. I can see why I had to ask myself this question, or why I had to process this in that way, because um, because it's real. It's
Yeah.
absolutely real. And one of the things that I want to say before we go into anything else is the reason why I believe that I experienced it, because I was so out of touch while she was in her at her 10, she let me know that she was on Percocet. She had taken 3. She was
Mm.
going to take another one to possibly calm herself down. She said that she had been in a mental health institution, and she also said she had been incarcerated. So all of these things, and she also said that she had told her brother that when the police came over, that they pointed guns to her head because, and so that's what got her brother fessed up to wanting to do something to harm me. And so she was on the phone talking to a person, and she said she lied to her brother regarding the situation because she knew that that would trigger him.
Hmm.
Yeah, and let me just clarify, Joe, if you will, because I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying you should not do a self-assessment, right? Like you should not, in any circumstance, say what part did I play, if any, in this. What I meant by asking yourself, did I overreact, or blaming yourself, in some instances, part of the symptoms, and of course, those symptoms come with more than just questioning yourself. It's everything
Yes.
all together, but your body will tell you whether or not you've experienced trauma. Even if you feel like you could have pivoted, you could have done something different, it won't erase that you went through that. And it won't, if you, in fact, and I'm not questioning that, I'm just saying in general, people went
Hmm.
through a traumatic situation and you experience PTSD, whatever the reason is behind it, your body has still experienced that. And some of the ways that our body will respond to PTSD and trauma is to begin to blame yourself or question yourself. It is part of a trauma response. So understanding and saying, okay, part of my healing journey and part of me being self-aware is asking myself, what's happening here? Did I contribute to this? What could I have done differently? And that holds true
Right.
in and of itself, but it does not erase the experience and the response that your body has to it. There's still a road that you need to go down with recognizing. So what I'm doing here is separating the thought process from the experience and what it's cost you by trauma, by traumatizing you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand.
So I
Yes,
just
that
wanted
makes
to make
sense.
sure I wasn't giving the impression that I was telling people don't ever say, well, I didn't do anything, or, not, you definitely can ask yourself those questions. But when we're talking about your symptoms, are you coping with it saying, okay, I just overreacted, when clearly this person, even from what you've told us that she's told you about how she shows up in the world, everything that she's done behind and to stand behind her brand, so to speak, caused you trauma during and after the account.
Yes. So Joe, I don't know if you had any
Oh
more
yeah.
questions. Feel free to
Oh
shoot.
yes. This is definitely a experience you went through, and I'm glad you weren't harmed in it, and you're in a better place. But during the whole ordeal, I know we talked about either on a Wednesday call or a podcast that, sometimes when you enter a room, you get this sense of like this unease. So before any of this interaction with her started, did you pick up on like something is like uneasy in the air, or you just feel like, this something's just off on that day?
Um, she came in the first day on the first experience. She came in and she saw me and my friend in the kitchen, and
Hmm.
so I thought that everything. I didn't think that that was unexpected for her then to come and act like it was brand new.
Right.
Um, and so that was, I didn't have any inkling that that was going to transpire. The second time I didn't I didn't sense, of course, that the first thing had already happened,
Mm-hmm.
and she came in and she got so worked up, coughing and stuff like that. I can't breathe, blah blah blah. These nasty MFs, all this kind of stuff. And so, um, yeah, it didn't dawn on me that these things would occur. I had no inkling
Okay.
on of what could trigger her, or what what really started this. She did say a few things that um, may have hinted that she liked me in a sense. She
Mm-hmm.
she kind of came on to me the first day that I was there, but not
Mm-hmm.
nothing
Good.
nothing afterwards too traumatic or too open,
Right.
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 but during her ranting and raving, she just shared everything that she was feeling because she was intoxicated. So the first time I didn't know she was intoxicated. I
Mhm.
figured that she might have been on drugs, well,
Mm-hmm.
alcohol and marijuana possibly, but I didn't know any other thing that she may have been taking. But the
Right.
Right.
second time she told me she was on Percocet, she was waiting on somebody to deliver her some syrup,
Huh?
and so she probably was intoxicated the first time as well,
Right.
on the same type of medicine, or drugs rather.
Okay.
So I had no clue, and one of the reasons I believe that I went through it because there are so many times in our communities where people that they don't know how to handle their emotions, and
Mm-hmm.
then if they have mental health issues and they're using drugs, you're adding insult to injury and things can escalate really quick. So without drugs in the picture, people are not emotionally stable enough to handle things. I lost one officer of mine, security officer, when I had a security company, because he was leaning, or somebody in his um, setting where he was talking, he was in a apartment complex. Somebody
Mm-hmm.
was leaning on this young lady's car. She came out and she was livid, like, get off my car, blah blah blah. She ends up calling her brother, and he's bringing his friends. They shoot up the place. My
Oh
officer
wow.
dies, and he was not on
Jeez.
duty, but he died at the age of 33. And so, um, I knew that innocent lives could be lost while I'm in this while I'm at that space, right? I'm living there. I don't know who she's going to bring over. I don't know if she's going to do something to me. I know she's told people about me and what I've done, or what she alleged that I have done. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, you know, it got real and personal. And
Right.
I had to have that experience because I was so far removed from mental health and drugs, because I had not experienced anything like this before hitherto. And so, in order to be able to share my story and to be able to help people that is going through traumatic, I need to be able to have empathy. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that was part of the reason why, because people need to hear this story. They need to hear how to cope with things like that. Sometimes you just have to remove yourself from crazy, because you just don't know what crazy gonna do when crazy gonna get crazy, and turn crazy. Things gonna
Yeah.
go.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, I used to train my security officers about that. And I would tell them how to watch their surroundings, watch people's demeanor, how to handle things when certain things happen. I would give them what if scenarios and things like that. But I said, when crazy shows up, you're gonna have to just try to manipulate the situation the best way you can, till you can call the police and get somebody, and to get some assistance.
Right.
And then, so that's the way I train people. And so I did not engage. I avoided engaging with the person
Mhm.
be to minimize the physical potential physical retaliation that could have came from the situation.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks for that,
Goodness.
Antoine. I do have one more question. I know we're running on time, but my other question was, let's see here. What are the steps that you take now? Like, since you went through this whole ordeal, are there any steps that you take now when you go to the like you said, your living situations when it's like an open floor, co-ed space, like you said? Is there anything that you do to kind kind of make sure that, I don't think you can really make sure, but the hope that this situation doesn't happen again?
Yeah, you know, like said earlier, I think about sometimes I overthink and like, am I being too loud? I want to be respectful to my roommates that I have now, and but I just don't want to overdo it. Sometimes I can realize that, hey, you just overdoing it. You overthinking it. It's from the experience that you had before, and you need to let that go,
Okay.
right? And so I think I monitor what's going on with me. I monitor how I'm feeling. I'm monitoring if my belly is tightening up, if I'm perspiring. If I'm perspiring, I'm not right now. Um, so I monitor what's going on with me. I try to
Right.
be very in tune with who I am and what's going on and how I feel and what I'm thinking, and if am I telling myself a story, am I going too far into this, um, am I do I have all the facts? Does the facts that I do have, are they leading me into this? Do I have, and is that all the facts, or could there be something else that I'm
Right.
missing
Mm.
Okay, so like a self-evaluation that you're doing for yourself. Okay,
on a constant
that
basis? Yeah,
that makes sense. Thank you for that. And I know also that Jatan was talking about like different steps if people are experiencing trauma or they suspect they might have PTSD. What are some steps they can do? Well, I know that some steps are like basically definitely validating the experience, and when it comes to uh, the trauma itself, kind of get your informed support. So just get support with that. And another step, I didn't go by the numbers, but another step is to like reclaim your space and environment, or you move to a new environment if it's not safe. Like you said before, that environment was not safe for you, and that you definitely removed yourself from that. So that's definitely a good thing as a what to do. And you know, the
but
last step will be go ahead.
I don't know if y'all remember, but I had talked to you all about, in one of our sessions, we just was chatting, and I was like, I don't know if I should say something to this chick or not, because she's doing a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And that was before
Hmm.
all the stuff hit the fan,
Mm.
right? And
Yes, that was because I remember that one.
and so I was trying to rationalize what my move should be, if I should just let it go, or should I, address the issue of, hey, I have a problem, so I'm just gonna yell and scream and have a fit in my room in hopes that they hear me and do something different. So,
But I think
I couldn't
during
get to
that
that mute button
conversation,
fast enough. But
but
yeah.
during
Oof.
when you were telling us that too, you I think when we had our discussion, you actually did. did go on the little suggestions that we were discussing, because you when you told us, hey, you called police, you did this and that, the different steps that you took, I think those are the most valid steps to take, because you
Right.
have to you have to take those type of steps to make sure you are safe in the space that you're in. And that's definitely what's like, I applaud you for that, because not everybody would take those steps like you would take in a situation. Some people might go through, if you're on the 10, I'm going to bring a 10.
Right. Yeah. They
And
fight fire with fire.
yes, and there's no water at all, then it could have escalated to something totally different. But
Jay-Z
you,
said, "You do two to me, I'm gonna do four back."
yep,
There are a lot of people that take that approach.
Yeah.
they sure
Sometimes
do.
that's the approach, but not always.
And that's a good thing, that not always, but in this
Right.
particular situation, hey, you took your like you took your steps. He's like, hey, let me just do this and this and this, and try to de-escalate this so I can see you another day, because you don't know what that person's gonna do.
Yes.
Joe, I know you gave four great steps, that can kind of help somebody get started in the way of recognizing whether or not they have experienced PTSD or maybe experiencing it. And I think one more step is to connect with a community like HEALn HELP, and connect with a community like a Drulix. So if you would, Joe, you want to go ahead and give them the places and spaces that they can connect with HEALn HELP. And then Antoine, I'll let you give the spaces and places they can connect with the Drulix, and then I'll close us out.
Oh yes. So you can definitely find us at healin.help. So you follow at healin dash, I mean that said dash underscore help on Instagram as well. And also you can find us on our Ko-Fi channel, which is Ko-Fi or Kofi, ko-fi.com// healing help. And that's where you can access all resources from us, and even our materials, and even book some calls from us. And I'll pass it over to Antoine.
Yes, and adrulix.com, ADRUILUX.com. We also are building our community on Dialpad, no, Discord, and I put a link at the bottom of our website, as well as in the section of our website. So I'm driving a lot of people to Discord. We can have conversations. We have um, a boss up call every Monday through Friday around 9:30 EST, and so we talk about questions like this. We talk about books to read to assist in your plight. We help each other. We pray for each other. We do our declarations and things like that. We take breathing exercises, and so we have things in our community that help. And that's why I'm able to process the things that I had, how I processed it, this situation, the way, and handle the situation the way I handled it, is because of my prior experience of um, just doing emotional. I've been on an emotional intelligence journey for the last year and a half, and so that helped me process this, and that's why I can talk from the state place that I'm talking from. But a lot of us don't have those tools, right? We haven't been afforded the opportunities for somebody to present those tools to us. Okay, so that's why we at Healing Help and Drulix are giving this information out, because it's so valuable, and we just need to know how to tap in and start that healing process for ourselves, and just to handle our emotions better.
Well, thank you so much. And I just want to point out that healing.help is our website. It's a wealth of information there. You can go and book private sessions with us. We have a a host of sessions and services that we offer. We just added a link for you to be able to get merch. So if you go to HEALn.help, you will have a plethora of tools and resources at your fingertips. We would love to see you there. I just want to say again, Antoine, I so appreciate you being vulnerable, being open, and being willing to share with us your experience, share with us your
Yes.
journey since the experience and how you have handled it and why you can handle it. Thank you for connecting with us and connecting at drulix.com with healinhelp.com to create safe spaces and to uplift our community. Just because we didn't end up in a hospital or shot or killed when we experienced certain things doesn't mean that you didn't survive something that was life altering. And
Hmm.
PTSD wears many, many faces. And sometimes it's not a soldier. It's a woman shaking while making coffee in her own home. It's a man who is like, I don't want to go into the kitchen, or I'm going to go into the kitchen as least as possible, because not that I think it will happen with these people, but I don't know that it won't. Right. So our
Right.
affirmation, I decided I'm going to give one for today, is I deserve safety. I deserve peace. What happened to me was not my fault, and healing is possible, and I'm in control of that. So if this story resonated with you, I want you guys to take one small step today. I want you to journal. I want you to breathe. I want you to call a friend, look up a trauma therapist in your area, or connect with healing.help or drulix.com. Your peace is sacred, protected, and rebuild it. And that's all I got on that. Have a great night, you all. And thanks again for listening to the HEALn HelpDesk podcast. We'll see you next week.
All right, bye, bye, guys.
Later. Thank you all. Great talk.
Blessings we can quantify. Want you to realize that the heroes deep within. Journey to your center. Find what's hidden there. Face your fears with courage. Show